Very pleased to welcome our next guest to the show. This great man was one of the early drummers with the Sons of Chaplin, a founding member of the Rhythm Dukes with Jerry Miller, and he was also Moby Grape's drummer. From 1977, let's welcome Fuzzy John Oxendeine to Laurel Canyon Rock Radio.
Well, I started playing with the Sons of Champlin in the summer of '69. They were going to go on tour across the country, and my son was just born in July. I decided I didn't want to take off and go for 4 months or 2 months, whatever it was, across country. I left the band, and I had some property in Santa Cruz, and I went down to look at it. Up a dirt road, another dirt road, and another dirt, way in the middle of nowhere, dead ends. And I'm driving down the road, and I'm looking, and there's a little house all of a sudden on the left. And there's Miller out front of the house with his guitar on, walking around playing. And the property was right across the street from his, just a vacant lot. He says, well, what are you doing? I go, oh, I left the, Sons, and I'm looking at the property and maybe move down here to Santa Cruz. I wanted to get out of Maria. He says, let's play. Because Moby Grape by that time had, Skippy had left, and most of them had relocated down in Santa Cruz. They had houses and stuff. So we started practicing. Peter and Mosley and Don and Jerry and myself, and that went along, and the next thing it was like all of a sudden they wanted us to go on the road, Moby Grape, but it wasn't. By that time the other guys decided they wanted to do something else, and it was just me and Jerry and the bass player. We decided to call them, I was looking at them one day, we were practicing, and I looked at John and Jerry, and they're just like, I go, those guys are the Rhythm Dukes, and that was the name. And then so we started playing. The Sons were having problems again, and Bill and I were real good friends, and so I called Bill and told him, come on down here and play with us. So he did for a while, and then Santa Cruz wasn't his place. He's a Marin County boy, so after a time he decided to go back, and the Sons went back together.
1978 brought us an album called Live Grape. This was a Moby Grape reunion album of sorts, live recordings, mixed down in Marin County, California in 1978. It included yourself, Peter Lewis, Jerry Miller, Skip Spence. Fuzzy John, talk about Live Grape and how it came together.
What happened, I guess there was a guy named John Chesley, producer, that was friends with Jerry, and he wanted to record. They have people that really love him, and Chesley was one of those people, and so he just said, let's do a live album. Let's put the band together and do some playing, and then we'll record it. So that's pretty much how it came together. Mosley didn't want to do anything, and Don didn't want to do it. Played some gigs, and they recorded them live and put the album out.
Fuzzy John Oxendeine, talk to us about Skip Spence.
He was very psychic. When I had met him, he'd been, had a couple of issues that were going on, and they got progressively worse, but he was just amazing. His guitar playing, his songwriting ability, and his presence, it was, when I first saw him, he was the guy. It was Moby Grape, and Skippy was the front man. His singing, his style, everything about him. I'd seen Skippy play with the Airplane before. He was the first drummer on that first album, and then he left the band, and the next thing I know, then there he is with Moby Grape, and it was Buffalo Springfield, Moby Grape, and Lee Michaels, and I think it was the Avalon. But man, they just knocked my socks off. I could not believe it. Jerry's playing is amazing, but Skippy, he was one of a kind. He was very psychic. He'd be across the room, have his back to you, and then if you even looked at him, he would know. And he'd turn around and look at you. Just he had a way of looking at things. He'd make songs up be playing a gig, he'd make a song up right there. Next thing you know, we're playing and trying to figure out what he's doing. But everything, he had hooks that were just the best. And the lyrics, Hey Grandma, Omaha, just first time we played it that night, the song, and we didn't know what he was doing, and all of a sudden, it turned into a song. Great song. The lyrics are really great.
All right, so Live Grape, 1978. Fuzzy John, tell us.
San Francisco at this little club, Shady Grove, I believe it was, and then we went to Cotati into the beginning, and we did 2 nights at each club. Cornelius has got a song on there, Set Me Down Easy. It's beautiful. And then there's a song that Jerry wrote that's a big, long one, You Got Everything I Need. And Skippy, you can hear him. We did Honky Tonk on there, and you can hear Skippy laughing while we're playing it. So then we're mixing it down, and that's when I met Marriott. He was up there at the studio where we were doing the mixing and stuff, and then Steve and I would stay up all night and play. I mean, he had the voice like I couldn't believe how good he was. We played a gig in Sacramento, and he disappeared after the show. and we're going, oh man, we're skipping. We hadn't seen it for days, and we had a gig on a city hall in San Francisco. Thousands of people in a parade that led up to there. So we're driving along trying to get to the stage, and the next thing you know, we're in the parade, and we get to the stage, and we're going, man, okay, but where's Skippy? Anybody seen Skippy? So he winds up walking in. He's got a 3-piece suit on and a girl on each arm. And he goes, whoa, he looked like $1 million. That was a crack up. I mean, everybody just started laughing.
Fuzzy John, talk to us about Neil Young and the Ducks and this amazing gig at the Santa Cruz Civic Center in 1977 where Moby Grape opened up for Neil Young and the Ducks, featuring Jeff Blackburn and Bob Mosley.
I knew all those guys, Craviotto, and I played with Neil a bunch. He would come into different bands. I'd be playing. I used to play up in La Honda. He's got a big, thousands of acres up there. So he'd just come out and go down. Town was there. You couldn't get in. It was crowded. It was just like the old days. I mean, that was just one of those amazing gigs. We played off of each other. We were all happy to be there at the same time. Jeff Blackburn, with Blackburn and Snow, he started there, and he was probably the guy that put that band together. Guy that told Neil, come on, let's do this. And pretty special night. One of a kind.
Jeffrey Blackburn, of course, the co-author of Hey Hey My My with Neil Young. How is Mr. Blackburn, Fuzzy? Is he still gigging in the Santa Cruz area?
Yeah, he's around. He's gigging. Not a whole bunch, but he'll get out every now and then, or he'll come by a gig and playing. Because, Jerry and I are still playing. The last thing we played was about 4 months ago, just before it was beginning to start locking it down, and we played a friend of ours' birthday party. Blackburn did not show up at that gig, but he's been showing up.
Fuzzy John Oxendeine, you're a longtime member of the Jerry Miller Group. Talk to me about this legacy.
He's an amazing guitar player. Just one of the. He's in the top 5 from that era. When they came out, everybody in San Francisco said he was the man.
Fuzzy John Oxendeine, thank you so much for joining us today on Laurel Canyon Rock Radio. From deep inside Laurel Canyon. Laurel Canyon Rock Radio. Laurel Canyon Rock Radio. Your host, Eric Brenner.